The Nilfgaardian attack on Cintra led to many former soldiers of the kingdom to cross the Yaruga, in the hopes of returning to their homeland once more, with the blood of their queen Calanthe back on the throne. The soldiers were a mixed bunch, only held together by Vissegerd, a man who almost no one really likes or respects. Vissegerd is a Cintrian marshal, meaning that he was a very important person in Cintra, being a nobleman and at the same time one of the most important people in the Cintrian army. His first appearance in the books was in a short story, Question of Price, where he sat somewhat near Calanthe. He was kind of in control of the staff during the event of the banquet, as Calanthe called him when it was time to start. As he clapped in his hands, the festivities started. In the time between the start of the event and the arrival of Pavetta, he talked a bit with Ais Tursig, before Vissegerd, along with a page, Harold and Castellan, went to get Pavetta to join the guests in the hall. He would talk some more with Eist and Mausek until a servant and the captain of the guard came up to the marshal. Vissegerd listened to what they had to say and went straight towards Calanthe to tell her about the imminent arrival of the urchin of Erlenwald, Dunny. Vissegerd didn't like Dunny. He was very clearly siding with Calanthe, and he also was not a big fan of Geralt, claiming Ciri via the law of surprise. What exactly happened to Vissegerd during the Nilfgaardian attack on Cintra is not known, but he survived and he fled across the Yaruga. Here he gathered Cintrian refugees and formed an army of about 5,000 native Cintrians. The group would get another 3,000 soldiers added to their ranks from Temeria, and a few volunteers from Bruges and Sodden. Vissegerd wanted to take back Cintra, his homeland, from Nilfgaard. As an important military figure of Cintra, he would most likely not be able to assume a role of the same status in Nilfgaard as he had under Calanthe. In the time after Vissegerd had formed his army, he was actively searching for the whereabouts of Ciri, as the Cintrians would fight to get her back on the throne. He had his suspicions that Geralt had taken her, as he knew that he evoked the law of surprise. However, he didn't know where Geralt was, and where he had hidden Ciri, as Kaer Morhen's location is unknown to anyone who isn't a Witcher or invited there by the Witchers. For a short time, the kings of the north feared that if Vissegerd would get his hands on Ciri, he might try to marry her to take the throne of Cintra for himself, which was something none of the monarchs wanted to happen. As to them, Vissegerd was nothing but a tool. An old, ugly tool. Eventually, as the Second Northern War broke out, news started to come from Nilfgaard that they had Ciri and that Emhyr was going to marry her. This led to quite some unrest in Vissegerd's army, as in a few months 2,000 Cintrian soldiers deserted to return to their homeland, as all they wanted was for the descendant of Calanthe to sit on the throne. They didn't know, however, that was a fake Ciri. But Vissegerd had to find a way to keep the remaining 3,000 Cintrians in check, and in his way of doing so was by smearing Ciri, Calanthe, and their ancestors. He would say, "Cursed blood, the whole female line of the family is cursed, vile creatures beginning with Rhiannon. Ciri's great-grandmother Adalia played the harlot with her cousin, as her mother Muriel fornicated with everyone. From this blood only incestuous whores are born." Vissegerd tried to spread these rumors to keep the Cintrians with him. However, his second-in-command, or kind of second-in-command, a Temerian count named Daniel Echeverry, was a family of Ciri as well, and he was a descendant of Muriel. Daniel didn't like the rumors Vissegerd was spreading about his family. However, Vissegerd was his commander, and he would not disobey him, even if he insulted his family. During the Second Northern War, Vissegerd eventually got his hands on some very interesting prisoners, namely Dandelion and Geralt of Rivia. Geralt was knocked unconscious by a horse when Nilfgaardians attacked the camp they were at, and soon after Vissegerd's men came along and took them prisoner, as Vissegerd believed they were Nilfgaardian spies. King Foltest's liaison in Vissegerd's army, Daniel Echeverry, tried to convince him that Dandelion was not a Nilfgaardian spy, but Vissegerd didn't care. He felt a burning hatred for the Witcher, and claimed that he had sold Ciri to Emhyr when he was bored with her, and that was how he imagined that she went from being with Geralt to ending up in Nilfgaard. The marshal planned to publicly execute Geralt out of anger for what happened 15 years earlier in Cintra, when he claimed Ciri via the law of surprise. In the time Geralt and Dandelion were captives of Vissegerd, Daniel Edgeferry tried to give his knightly word that Dandelion at the very least was innocent, but Vissegerd didn't care for what he pledged. When Dandelion questioned Vissegerd's effectiveness as a leader, seeing how his army was slowly deserting, he was furious with the poet, and turned bright red as he grabbed him by the ruff. Vissegerd was very sensitive in this matter, as in contrast to most soldiers who deserted, he would most likely not be welcomed back in Cintra, seeing how he led the army against Nilfgaard. By the time that he had captured the Witcher, only half of his army was for Cintra, and if a few more hundred left, there was a big chance that Foltest would take away Vissegerd's control, meaning that the marshal would lose all of his power. Vissegerd went on to call Ciri a slut, and suggested to Geralt and Dandelion that she should have killed herself by slitting her wrists rather than get captured by Nilfgaard. As night fell, Vissegerd eventually left his prisoners. In the morning, he would publicly execute them for propaganda and to inspire his troops. In the middle of the night, the Witcher and Dandelion were freed by Regis, who had put the guards around the tent to sleep. He cut their ropes and helped them escape, so they could regroup with Milva. They managed to make it out to camp, using some coin from Dandelion's boot to distract a few guards as they ran to the forest away from the camp. As they ran away, a few of Vissegerd's men on horses chased them, when suddenly Geralt and Dandelion stopped, seeing a large group of Nilfgaardian cavalry coming from the forest they were running towards. The leader of the patrol stopped right next to Geralt and looked where he was pointing, when Geralt knocked him off his horse, and he and Dandelion escaped using said horse, although they were forced to switch horses and take a few Nilfgaardians down who chased them. For Vissegerd, this was obviously a bad moment. He had lost his important prisoner and was attacked by Nilfgaardians. It might have been at this battle, or soon after, but something changed with Vissegerd here. We don't know exactly what happened to him after this battle. As far as I could find, it is never said that he died. However, in Lady of the Lake, it was said that his army, his former army, had joined Nilfgaard and was fighting in its vanguard near Moyenna, where the camp had been located before, at least according to reports from Julia Abate Marco. The group is referred to as Vissegerd's former Cintran corpse, which could indicate that all the Cintrians left their marshal, or that he had died. The latter seems a bit less likely, as in a report received by Krach about Geralt's escape from the camp, he still talks about Vissegerd in a way that seems to indicate that he survived the battle. It could be possible that he joined Nilfgaard, but it seems very unlikely as he hated them and Emir. Vissegerd was a tool to every ruler in the north. No one liked him, and they only used him to keep a group of Cintrian soldiers in check, which the marshal, of course, was not very effective at. He lost most of his soldiers as they deserted, and presumably he was relieved of his leadership by Foltest after the battle following Geralt's escape. Vissegerd actively acted in his own interests, even going as far as not letting the Temerian Secret Service know that he had Geralt, someone who they would be very interested in to interrogate. At first, Vissegerd seems loyal to the old Cintra, but then he starts a rumor about Ciri and Calanthe, the queen who he used to serve. It seems that in the end, he only cared about his own power and the influence, and to be honest, I kind of wish he would have died. He is just not a likable character, and no one even seems to like him, no king, not even the soldiers following him. And his comments about Ciri really make you want to just see Geralt slice him with the sword. But what do you think of Vissegerd? Till the next video. Bye.